It all begins on a night so cold that even the trees seemed to shiver, their bare branches rattling like bones against the howling wind. And if you are here listening now, you must prepare yourself, because this is not just any story, it's the kind of story that grips your heart, leaves you breathless, and makes you wonder what you would have done if you had been there, because sometimes fate places us in the right place at the right time, and what we choose to do can alter not just one life but many. Forever. A broken bar on that stormy December evening, high in the mountain town where snow often fell so thick that roads became invisible and cars slid helplessly off icy bends. A woman named Claire was making her way home from the late shift at the diner, her breath turning white against the dark, her scarf pulled tightly around her face, her boots sinking deep into the rising drifts with each heavy step, and though the cold bit her cheeks, her mind was warm with thoughts of her small cabin waiting just beyond the forest, the crackling fire she had left smoldering in the hearth, and the promise of a quiet evening curled up with the old quilt her grandmother had made. But little did Claire know, her life was about to change in ways she could never imagine. A broken bar. The storm intensified, snow swirling like ghostly dancers around her, the wind whipping so hard she could barely see the path, and just as she tucked her chin against her chest and pushed forward, she thought she heard something faint, so faint it could have been the wind, but no, there it was again, a muffled sound that carried desperation, the kind of sound that made your soul tremble. And she stopped in her tracks, straining her ears, heart pounding in the silence between gusts. A broken bar. A cry, high-pitched, cutting through the storm, fragile yet persistent, the unmistakable wail of a baby. Broken bar. For a second she wondered if the storm was playing tricks on her, if the loneliness of the mountain night was weaving illusions into her ears. But then came another cry, louder this time, followed by a woman's voice, broken, gasping, calling for help. And without hesitation Claire spun around, searching through the blinding curtain of snow, squinting into the night until she caught a shadow moving unsteadily near the ditch where the road curved sharply down the hill. A broken bar. Her heart lurched as she realized it was a young woman, barely more than a girl, clutching a bundle to her chest, stumbling through the snowdrift as if her legs could no longer hold her weight. And before Claire could think, she was already running, the wind clawing at her, her boots slipping on ice, but her determination anchoring her forward. A broken bar. Hey, hold on, I'm coming, she shouted, though her voice was nearly swallowed by the roar of the storm, and the woman turned her face, pale and streaked with frozen tears, eyes wide with terror and exhaustion, lips blue, as she whispered a thank you that barely made it past her chattering teeth. A broken bar. Claire reached her, steadying her by the shoulders, and only then did she see how dire the situation was. The young mother's coat was thin, far too thin for such weather, torn in places as though she had rushed out without preparation, and the baby wrapped inside the blanket was wailing weakly, its tiny cries puncturing the storm like daggers, and Claire knew instantly that if she didn't act fast, both mother and child would not survive the night. A broken bar. With urgency surging through her veins, she wrapped her own thick wool scarf tighter around the baby, shielding its tiny face from the icy gusts, and gripped the mother's hand firmly, saying, "We have to get you both inside now. My cabin isn't far. You can make it if you lean on me." And though the young woman looked ready to collapse, something in Claire's voice, steady, determined, laced with a kindness she had not heard in so long, ignited a spark of hope in her weary eyes, and she nodded, whispering, "Please, don't leave us." As she clung to Claire's arm. A broken bar. Step by step, they trudged through the thickening snow, Claire half dragging, half carrying the young mother while cradling the infant close against her chest, her muscles screaming from the effort, her lungs burning as the freezing air cut like glass. But she refused to slow down, knowing that every second mattered. A broken bar. The storm raged louder, howling like wolves around them, snow pelting their faces until they could barely see, but finally through the veil of white, the outline of Claire's cabin appeared like a beacon of salvation, its chimney still faintly smoking, and she pushed forward with the strength she didn't know she had until they burst through the door, slamming it shut behind them, collapsing in a heap on the wooden floor as warmth enveloped them like an embrace. A broken bar. The fire crackled, casting golden light over the room, and Claire wasted no time. She laid the baby by the hearth, unwrapping it just enough to check its tiny face, pale but still breathing, though faintly, and she quickly stripped off her own heavy coat, wrapping it around the child before tossing extra logs onto the fire to build the heat higher, while the young mother sank against the wall, trembling, whispering through cracked lips, "Thank you, a broken bar, thank you. I thought we wouldn't make it a broken bar." Clara grabbed blankets, wrapping them around both mother and child, then gently pressed a steaming cup of water heated quickly over the fiery into the young woman's hands, urging her to sip, watching carefully as the color slowly returned to her cheeks. "A broken bar only once they were stable, did she ask, softly but firmly. What happened? How did you end up out there in this storm with a baby?" And the young mother's eyes filled with tears, her lips trembling as she whispered a story that made Claire's chest tighten. "A broken bar. She had been on the road trying to escape, running from something she dared not name yet. Her car had broken down miles back, and with no one around to help, she had taken the baby and started walking, desperate to find shelter, but the storm had trapped her, and she was certain they would freeze before morning." A broken bar. Claire listened, her heart aching with both compassion and curiosity, but she didn't push further, not yet, because she could see the exhaustion in the young woman's eyes, the heaviness of secrets carried too long, and instead she said, "Rest now, you're safe here." And for the first time that night, the young mother closed her eyes, holding her baby close as warmth and safety wrapped around her, while Claire sat nearby, watching over them like a silent guardian, her mind swirling with questions, not knowing that the answers would soon unravel into a journey that would change both their lives forever. A broken bar. The storm had finally quieted by morning, though outside the world was buried in white silence, a thick blanket of snow covering every path, every tree, every trace of the night's terror. And inside the cabin, the fire burned low but steady, casting a warm glow over the faces of the three souls whose fates had collided by chance or perhaps by something greater. And if you've followed the story so far, lean in closer now, because this is the part that truly matters, the part where choices ripple outward and lives are reshaped forever. A broken bar. Claire stirred from her chair, stiff from staying up all night to keep watch, her eyes falling upon the young mother, still asleep by the hearth, the baby nestled safely in her arms, their breathing soft and synchronized, and something about the scene struck Claire deeply, stirring emotions she had kept locked away for years. A broken bar. She had always lived alone, in that cabin built by her grandfather, working long hours at the diner, returning home to silence, no family, no children, no one to share the crackle of the fire with, and though she told herself she was content, that solitude was easier than heartbreak. Watching the young woman and her baby filled her with an ache she couldn't quite name, as though life was reminding her of everything she thought she had lost. A broken bar. The young mother stirred then, blinking awake, her eyes wide with the kind of fear that doesn't disappear after one safe night, the kind of fear that lingers when you've been running too long. And Claire quickly knelt beside her, speaking softly, "You're safe, remember? You made it through the night." And the woman nodded slowly, holding her baby tighter, whispering, "I don't even know your name, and you saved us." Claire smiled faintly, brushing snowflakes still melted on her sleeve, and replied, "I'm Claire." "And you are?" The young woman hesitated, as if saying her name carried danger, but then she whispered, "I'm Miley, a broken bar, and this is Lily," her voice breaking slightly as she kissed the baby's forehead. Claire repeated their names softly, as though committing them to memory, then asked gently, "Emily, what were you running from out there in that storm?" For a moment Emily's face hardened, her eyes darting toward the window as though she expected someone to burst through at any moment, but then, perhaps because of the warmth of the fire or the kindness in Claire's steady gaze, the words began to spill, halting at first, then faster,